all of my foster puppy pictures.
And at some point, we're just going to have to call this and
Jason, could you check now?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, I think we've figured out the problem.
Jason doesn't look sick at all.
I said a prayer, and I think that worked.
I mean, you look really good for being sick.
I'm not sick. I was sick. I'm getting over it, so I didn't want to, ruin everyone's holiday by getting the rest of you sick. So, yeah.
We appreciate it.
Yes.
Consider it as I mentioned. Okay,
I heard that.
we're ready. Thank you for your patience.
Good evening, everyone. It is now 6:12 p.m., and I will call to order this online public meeting. It is December 7th, 2022. My name is Andy Gregg, and I'm the Chair of Historic Preservation. Due to COVID-19, regular meetings and public hearings in the Clark County Historic Preservation Commission will be held in a hybrid format with both in-person and virtual participation options for commissioners. Will allow for safe participation by commission members, staff, and any citizen interested in attending. For those of you joining remotely via computer, you should be able to see tonight's meeting agenda on your screen. If you can't see the screen, and have joined by phone only, I will be announcing the agenda items as we move through the meeting topics. So the public and applicants that have joined remotely are attendees, which means they can see and hear the event. If you joined via computer or mobile device, or you can just hear the event if you join by phone. Other event participants cannot hear your audio unless you are acknowledged by the commission chair or. This evening's agenda is planned as follows: roll call and introductions, prior meeting minutes approval, outline of meeting materials provided for the evening, public comment for subjects other than public hearings on this meeting's agenda, as there will be specific public comment periods as part of hearings. New business, including discussion regarding resignation of a member, whether or not there will be a January meeting. Old business includes updates and announcements such as Clark County Historical Museum Speaker Series debrief, an update on the historical promotion grants, a budget update, good of the order, and adjournment. So we'll have roll call. Susan, would you call the roll, please?
here.
Jan Bader.
Here.
Julie Bond.
Here.
Morgan Fraser.
Here.
Heidi Mandler Huff. Heidi was online, but I am not seeing her now, so she may return. Elaine Thatcher.
Here.
Andy Gregg.
Here. At this time, I'd receive a motion to approve the November meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the November meeting minutes.
Commissioner Frazier has so moved. Is there a second?
I will second this motion.
Commissioner Thatcher has seconded. It's been moved and seconded that the November 2022 meeting minutes be approved. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Was there a comment about the hard copy materials and iPads?
Yes. So we provided both hard copy materials and we brought all of your materials up on the iPads. And what we would like to try to do in the future is to provide you an agenda for the meeting and maybe the basic materials like a staff report, but bring up other materials on your iPads just to save time and cost and paper. So hopefully you can switch between the different windows as we're, or tabs, as we're going through tonight's agenda and try it out. And then if you have troubles, let us know. If you want to go and see what's on the screen, you can double-click the black button that's on the right-hand side of everybody's iPad, and that switches between the different apps. And if you happen to get back to the home screen, the Safari browser, which looks like a compass, is what will bring up all of the internet connections to all the documents for for tonight's meeting.
Great. Well done.
Thanks.
Is there any public comment?
So I'll read the directions on how to participate in public comment, and Bart brought up the screen. So for attendees using their computer or WebEx application, if you'd like to speak, please utilize the raised hand icon. You can do this by clicking the participant button that's as it's shown on the screen. And staff will acknowledge and unmute those attendees during the public comment period who have raised their hand by selecting the hand icon. When you finish your comment, please click the hand icon to lower your hand. For attendees using the telephone, you need to press *3 on your phone's number panel. When you're acknowledged, you will be unmuted. And when you have finished your comment, press *3 to lower your hand. Please note public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person in order to accommodate all speakers. And we do have Holly Chamberlain online who has raised her hand. And Bart will unmute you in just a minute, Holly.
Heidi just emailed in and said she was not able to make WebEx work.
Hey, I'm here. I
So she's
finally got
asking to be
the audio
excused.
to work.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
good.
Good
Sorry
evening.
about that.
No problem.
There you go. You're unmuted now, Holly.
Thank you, Bart. Good evening, commissioners, staff, and guests. At Providence Academy, the parking renovation and landscape redesign projects are proceeding well. The trust is responding to city questions on the parking plans, and the designs for the renovation and rehabilitation of the landscaping have been refined by Sarah Architects. The Academy Property Committee will review the draft landscaping designs next week. One tribal consultation with the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde has taken place regarding both of the projects. The trust will continue to welcome input on the projects from tribal nations. The archaeological permit application will be submitted to DAP at the end of this week or early next week. Tomorrow, December 8th, is the 166th anniversary of the arrival of the first Five Sisters of Providence in Vancouver. 17 years later, they began building the academy. Tours this week are all full, but there are still some spots available for next week on Wednesday through Friday between 10 and 2. Registration is at the Trust website. The sun actually shone on the 74 groups marching in this year's Low Legacy Veterans Day Parade. For this first year back after pandemic cancellations, the route was shorter and centered on the historic reserve. However, Trust staff found that the shorter route was actually better for participants and viewers, and we are likely to stick with it in the future to better focus on site history and convenience for participants and viewers. Challenging high winds a couple times this past month meant that a lot of branches came down and created much extra work for the crew in picking them up. But things are looking better now in that regard. Many small people will be climbing up the steps of the Marshall House this coming Saturday to visit with Santa, do holiday crafts, and enjoy seasonal stories. That event is full, but the building is decorated for the season and is open for tours Wednesdays through Fridays from 10 to 2. Grant House flooring repairs are 90% complete. Sunroom framing repairs are complete, and the flooring can now be installed in that room. Lease negotiations continue with possible restaurateurs. The Trust is working with the Vancouver Barracks Military Association on next year's military history lectures. The full calendar will be available in the new year, with the first talk scheduled in February. Trust Event Facilities staff hosted a regional gathering of members of Meeting Professionals International last week, including tours of buildings. This was a good opportunity for a wide range of meeting planners to see the historic spaces and think about them for possible rentals. Cultural Resources stakeholder meetings for the Interstate Bridge project continue. Project staff would like to receive suggestions of any research resources that have become available since the CRC. For example, the Trust submitted a history of the kindergarten building at the Academy, which expanded the information already available in the 1978 National Register nomination. You can send suggestions to culturalresources@interstatebridge.org. IBR staff continue with their survey work. Human remains detection dogs have been employed at the Historic Reserve, and noise testing has taken place on both sides of the freeway. LiDAR equipment will be used early next year at the Historic Reserve. The Trust wrote a letter of support for Vancouver's Downtown Association's proposal to host the Revitalize Wall Conference next year and offered complimentary space for sessions at the Academy. Good luck to VDA. It would be wonderful to have conference attendees here. Holiday Greenery is up along the row and at the Academy. Please come enjoy it. Happy holidays and thank you.
Thank you, Holly. We always appreciate your report. Moving on to new business, we understand we have one opening with the resignation of Greg Foos on the commission, and that my term will be ending on the 30th of June, and I will not be eligible for appointment. And so given the time frame necessary on the part of the city and county, at the agenda setting session, Jan and I, and Bart and Susan talked about advertising for the two openings at such time that an appointment would not be official until the 30th of June. Otherwise, one of the new commissioners would only be eligible to serve the balance of the current term, which ends on June 30th. And so we thought it would be a shame to have somebody appointed at the April meeting only to serve 2 meetings and then have to be submitted for reappointment. So, Bart, does this require a vote to delay filling Greg's seat or giving notice?
Susan and I talked about that, and it seems like a consensus type decision,
I thought so.
as long as everybody's on record.
Anyway, but for folks who have been reappointed, know that the second term, to serve a full term, is really an important factor in your service to the commission. And so, why don't we say this? Unless there's serious objection, why don't we try to fill the Greg Foos resigned position, and then the open position that I will create in such time that we could welcome 2 new commissioners at the June meeting.
The June meeting, July meeting.
Well, they would begin serving in July, but I thought it would be nice if we could welcome
that'd be
them.
really nice.
And because we noticed that the orientation, it would be really nice, it's my opinion, it would be really great for 2 new people to attend a meeting before they're in the chair and to meet their new colleagues. That was my proposal as a suggestion. Okay.
And this is Bart again. I would add that we've also discussed this with Jason and city staff, and they seemed amenable to it, unless, Jason, you had some other thought at this point.
I know we talked about this in our pre-agenda planning meeting, that, by the time everything's said and done and we recruit, we wouldn't really be saving much time. So I think, yes, it makes sense to start recruiting now for the replacement to start, like Andy said, on the July meeting. So yeah, we can do that.
Thank you very much. The other item of new business I wanted to bring to your attention is that, as you can see, this evening's agenda is not particularly lengthy. And on the advice of staff, I have been made aware that it's unlikely that there will be a backlog of public hearings or applicants for a January meeting. And so with the consent of colleagues, I would like to propose that we skip the January meeting, that we decide not to convene on January 4th and have our next meeting in the first meeting in February. Any objection to that idea? Great. I think we met in January online last year because I'm thinking that we did, mostly because I wanted to have continuity since we hadn't met and still had not met in person up to that point. I think May of 2022 was the first time, and it was the first time I met Commissioner Foos in person. And so had a January meeting for the sake of continuity. I have a matter of old business that isn't on the agenda, and I'll just briefly mention it. On Friday in this room, I had the pleasure of representing the Historic Preservation Commission to the elected and appointed officials day with the Leadership Clark County class of 2023. And it was very well attended. It's all of the participants commented that they remembered meeting Bart and me at their October meeting at the Red Cross building, and so it was nice to have that that continuity there too. And so we'll try to make a point of representing the commission to external groups as a means of elevating our profile in the community, as well as sharing the mission, which segues and dovetails seamlessly to the next on the agenda item, and that was the debrief of the Clark County Historical Museum Speaker Series presentation we had the pleasure of attending in November with fellow commissioners, and so I would like to defer to them for comments on that evening. So, Julie, would you like to comment? Elaine, Morgan?
I guess I would just say I appreciated being asked to go, and I thought that it was a very worthwhile event, and it was I think it's a really great opportunity to do outreach to people within the historic preservation community. I said that 3 times now. But anyway, I enjoyed it. It was also really great to hear my colleagues speak, particularly you, Andy, who are a very good speaker, especially on your feet. It was very engaging. And anyway, I enjoyed the event. I enjoyed being able to speak at it, and I thought it was a really great event. And I appreciated the museum inviting the commission.
Great. Elaine, any comments?
I really enjoyed getting to go there. It was a great, like Julie said, a great chance to engage with the community. One of the first questions that we had after speaking was, so what do you guys actually do? And I think that was very important for me to see that how important outreach is and working with the community, because everyone there was interested. In fact, several of them lived in historic housing or historic buildings, but they had no idea that we were here to help them, that we could network across the community for them. So I think it was a great opportunity, and I think we should look into doing more of it.
Well, I will just go right on those dovetails. We also got approached by a local radio station to do like a podcast, to get more outreach, whether that be like quarterly or annually. There was no, discussion of where that would go from there. But I think that there is a want for more knowledge in the community. And though at the museum, I think you get sometimes you get the same people often. So I think outreach further than the museum, going to, neighborhoods, these neighborhood associations, and letting them know that we're here, and some of the stuff that Jan brought up that she did way back when, when she was, we're super active in the city.
I thought it was nice to share our work and our mission with a friendly and receptive audience. And that's good practice
Yeah.
for when we have audiences that don't know anything or don't have a particular interest. So that was one of the things I liked.
Yeah.
Next item, comment on the historic preservation grant. Staff.
Yes, so yesterday at the beginning of a very lengthy county council meeting, our grants were on the consent agenda,
All right.
and they went through without comment. Jan, this is the memo that you had requested at the last meeting.
See what we're funding.
Yes, yes.
This is very nice.
Absolutely, and if we hadn't been under the gun with our timing, it would have been much easier to get that together. That having been said, this memo that's in the agenda that went to the council represents exactly what the subcommittee requested, and there were no issues, so it's approved and we can move forward with the grants. And with the one grant that was not ripe for funding yet, taken out of the group, so to speak, we were below $50,000, which was kind of the aspirational goal to keep it around 50. And so the fund, as far as I know, should be healthy for next year. Recording fees have dropped off a little bit, which is what funds this account towards the later part of this year. But as far as I know, we will be good to do it again next year. And obviously, we had talked about front-loading the process next year, so at least a month earlier on everything, and also potentially a kickoff event like Julie suggested. That would not be a hard thing to do. I don't know how we'd advertise it. We can brainstorm about that in the spring, but that's all I have, unless you guys have questions.
Thanks for supplying this document. Budget update?
So, as I think we talked a little bit about last month, we have about $3,500 of the budget left for 2022. And we got, I'm not sure if everybody was able to see their email, but we did receive an idea from Commissioner Thatcher about Cornell University's Sustainable Preservation Certificate and the possibility of sharing those materials with the rest of the commissioners. Morgan also put together a wonderful list of resources for a potential lending library, which thank you so much for that, putting that together. And then we had the suggestion of some materials also from Michelle Thompson from DAP as possible purchases. So I wanted to bring that up, and if we want to purchase any of those materials, we do need to do it before the end of the year, so we will get on that right away.
I think because it's an expenditure, it does require a vote. And so we have discussed the idea of creating the lending library of relevant materials. And so in our email, we did receive what amounts to the syllabus from Morgan and Elaine. And so I think this would be an opportunity to make a motion to approve spending money from the 2022 budget to purchase these materials.
Where are these going to live?
So we emailed back and forth today with Brad Richardson about the possibility of the materials being at the Historical Museum. He did not want to commit to that idea before he talked to his own staff and talked to us a little bit more about how that might work. If that didn't work for some reason, then they would probably stay here at the county building. But we're looking into the possibility of having those at the Historical Museum.
Can I ask another, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, that makes some sense, that
The access
building
would
that's
be
open
easier,
to the public,
be more
not that
accessible.
this building's not open to the public, but.
Right, and then the only thing that I was gonna add is, you know, from our meeting with Brad and his hopes and dreams for the front of the museum and the visitor center, you know, that might be a really good place for the Clark County Historical Preservation Commission to have a front face.
That would be very interesting. My only concern would be, I know when we talked to Brad, they're running quite short on space for some of their materials. So that's probably why he has to check with the rest of his team.
Staff.
It's a small, I mean,
It is small.
it's a small building, and
Yep.
off-site storage, we don't know how much longer the county's gonna let us be in there, so.
Right.
Mhm.
Susan, last time, we also talked about potentially moving some of the funding up from coming year into, what was the verdict on that?
Unfortunately, the answer was no. Yeah.
And then for the books, how much does, I didn't see the message, how much is the total? Or what is the total for the books if we were to purchase them? Would there be any left for the Cornell course? Or would it all go towards those materials? Do you remember?
So I believe that the cost of the Cornell course is a little bit over what we currently have, because I believe it's 37.
Yeah, it's about $37.50, so it's just over. And I think the course starts
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a pretty quick turnaround. Maybe to have that in, if we have availability in budget next year, that might be something interesting, because I know that they have rolling dates of openings. But I definitely think that the library idea would be the best one for this year.
And what about also if we did reach out to Brad, if we wanted to do something like that in like the front visitors kind of center, you know, maybe some of the funding could actually go to like buying the cabinet to put the books in, you know? Doesn't just have to be the books. I did my best. But I also brought
It
up,
was a great list.
I also brought up printing out some of the bulletins,
Mm-hmm.
like print them out and have them bound, you know, so that so people can easily open them and look at them, you know, so when they're sitting there looking at their house, doing their history of their house, because that's what they do when they sit downstairs, you know, that they could have this material there.
The brief?
So maybe if we made it more attractive to the museum, they would also be more amenable.
We got lots of shelving, it's just, it's the space.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as a backup, we have lots of shelf space in our building here. It's just a logistics issue that we'd have to arrange it with people pretty far in advance, and then we could meet them and let them look at things or check things out.
And I was thinking we could have this on the web, so people could be aware that there's a lending library. We got the bibliography there with like little, little description of what is in the reference, so that when they contact staff about, I want to replace the windows on my house, you can say, well, we have this lending library. There's some great books on there on historic preservation. You know, why don't you take a look? And so there can be more of a dialogue with our constituents and the applicants, you know, in the front end before they even come to the commission. That was my thinking.
I forgot, Jackie also suggested that, either of the other two museums in North Clark County or in Washougal, could be other potential locations for materials if for some reason, the downtown location was unable to take the materials. So that's another
Suggestion.
possibility.
Yeah, the only problem I know with the little museums is they're barely open. They're like less open than here, right? Because you can't even get into Two Rivers unless you call them right now. I mean, I could talk to La Center also because I have a lot of connections there. They're only open on Saturdays, but you could call them. You know, it's the same thing. Everything's going to be like, you'll have to call and make that arrangement. So I think that's why that web front face and having staff know that it's there and it's there for people to use so that they can get the information that they need.
And that part's easy. I can actually do that myself. So that part we can definitely do.
I know you have the skills.
So once we have the books, let's say we do the lending library, do we have any money left over, or will we be able to use our full budget?
So, I should have anticipated your question and put a cost to each of the materials that Morgan sent us today, but I did not do that. So, I don't have a total right
Oh,
now.
I was just curious if we needed to provide more.
Right.
So that we use
And
the
we
full
can
budget.
always find more just in case.
Yeah, I mean, I think, so like, for instance, the books that I put together, I think there's 11 of them. On average, they run, you know, the most expensive book on Amazon was like $45.
Yeah, we're not gonna spend $3,500 on.
Yeah.
Oh, I can make that happen.
Well, and then that's.
Old academic text that like doctoral professors read.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
We'll find more
What if-
practical books.
What if when you buy a hard copy of the book, you also can buy a digital copy of the book, and then that digital copy could be added to the webpage?
Oh, that's a good idea.
On the county.
That is a great idea, Jason.
I love that idea.
Jason, you're
That way you
amazing.
could spend even more money.
Even though we can't see him because there's a drop
You know,
down over his face.
In some ways, just doing all of them digitally makes a ton of sense, because then they can just live on the Preservation Commission's webpage, and there can be a library with
Well, that's
them
true.
digitally, rather than having any hard copies, then we don't have to worry about trying to find a place to store them, staff to check them out, people not returning them.
That is true, but I also worry that the website isn't exactly user-friendly. It can take a little bit to figure out where you're going. And for a portion of our community, being able just to walk down to the library and grab the book that they need would be easier for them than trying to figure out the website.
I wonder about the library.
The library
Oh.
is also a really good option.
Yeah.
That's a really good option.
That's, yeah. We have lots of choices.
Yeah, we'd need to check on the digital licensing. I've had issues with trying to share digital books in the past.
Oh.
But there may be ways to buy it so that you can publicly share
Share them like in the library, like,
those things.
it's a-
We'll certainly look at that.
it must be like at the library too, you know, like where it's a lending thing, so you check it out for like 30 days and then it automatically returns.
You have access for a specific period.
Mm-hmm, yeah, even on like, what's that, the Internet Archive, archive.org, some books you can check out for like 3 hours, that's it.
I would suggest just that now that we have a group of titles to look for and price out, that we can at least get the process going of buying good quality hard copies of the things that make sense to buy hard copies of, and then we can do that within the next week and a half, and then let you guys know how much is left over.
Yeah, and then, with all the, guides that have links to them, maybe we could just put those on the web.
Do you mean the briefs?
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need those on the,
Yeah, that's some of the stuff that I sent today. I didn't send everything under the sun, but
was what
I
it-
had a lunch break. I was like, okay.
I think that also the committee that is gonna do some of the, discussion around getting our guide, or, design guidelines, that was another thing we wanted to do, was get the briefs on, so we're the same.
All right, see?
It's great.
Sounds like everybody's in agreement on the library.
And Susan, would you welcome more titles?
Yeah, absolutely.
I did send mine to everybody, so everyone has an idea of what titles I put there, so it could be like a running list if anybody else has anything. I mean, I was trying to look for stuff that we didn't have in our local library, you know, and I didn't go for history books because our library is so amazing and we have the museum.
So is there a motion to approve spending remaining budget money on materials for the lending library?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we purchase a lending library of relevant titles. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, everybody.
Little.
Thank you, Heidi. We haven't forgotten about you.
No, I heard her there.
I did too.
I was just a little slow.
That's okay.
I also think some of those titles will be really useful for the commission.
Any further items?
Andy, thought I did read something about the Heritage Farm, but now I'm not seeing it. Was there an open house?
Yes,
In the email.
the email I sent yesterday had an attachment about an open house on December 14th, and it had some contact information for park staff.
I think I got confused because it was in the email. I was like, oh, are we talking about that?
I can resend that too if
I haven't,
you
thank
have.
you.
Okay. And Andy, we do have someone in person in the room tonight, and so I just wanted to make sure that he didn't want to make any public comment.
Good evening.
Welcome. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thanks very much. What day is the 14th? That's Tuesday?
Wednesday, I guess, next Wednesday,
Yeah, like a week?
a week from today exactly.
Welcome, and thank you for attending.
This issue of the Heritage Farm has come up.
Yep.
Not for a while, not since the weather station.
It feels like it's
We just did a survey.
always, they're always trying to figure out how to make this work.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Any further business items? Seeing none, is there any good of the order? I want to thank colleagues for attending the museum evening last month. It was a delightful time. It was good to elevate our standing and to show the flag. And I thought Brad was an outstanding host. So he gave an amazing tour of all the holdings that aren't even on display.
Not all of them. He did, but you didn't take him, but you didn't go off-site.
True. And I also want to thank fellow commissioners and staff members for all the good works during the course of 2022. It feels like the momentum has returned to our initiative, and it's a welcome feeling. So thank you all.
I wanted to thank Julie for the cookies.
Yes.
They're really good.
Yeah,
Here, here.
perfect treat.
Thank you. It came at a perfect time of day, too.
We'll save one for you, Jason.
We'll try to at least. We might eat them.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the meeting be adjourned. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
See y'all February 1st.
Is it that the date, Feb 1?
February
Wow.
1st.
Thank
It
you.
was good to revisit what day that is. Got a short meeting. Got a short meeting out of it.
And cookies.
And cookies, I know. Bonus.
Wow, a record time.
I know.
I was
watching the clock go going, well,
Andy's like, how fast can you approve those minutes? I'm like, real quick. I
How fast?
sent them,
Sorry, Morgan.
and my name was spelled right, and nobody called me Gretchen, so I'm good.
You're right, we did get everyone's names right tonight.
Andy, you're on your game.
Pardon me?
You're on your game.
Thank you. I've been
I think it's the cookies.